Are you someone who finds himself craving a sweet treat? Well, if so, I have the perfect treat for you to learn how to make, and today we're going to be making cake pops. I enjoy baking because I mainly enjoy eating the finished product, but I also really like to decorate because I like seeing everything come together. That's my favorite part, but also the part that is most tedious, and as a perfectionist, it gets a little hard. I found on many websites that baking can help relieve stress. One website called Delish stated that when people feel anxious, they look for something to do, a distraction of sorts, and baking provides that for many people, which I'd agree with, and I think that if you are experiencing something that makes you feel nervous or anxious, you should take up baking as it will help calm you. Why should you take it from me on how to bake something? Well, I've been baking for quite a while, and my treats come out tasting good all the time, but sometimes looks are not the best. When I first started, my cakes didn't look great. Now they both taste and look great. Here's a few pictures on some of my work. Now let's begin the baking process. The first thing you want to do is preheat your oven to 350. We're following the instructions that you can find on the back of the Betty Crocker mix or whatever one you use. If you think you can't bake or you always find trouble when you're baking, it's probably because you don't read the directions. If you follow these step by step, then it should come out right. So let's do that together. First, we're going to pour our mix into our bowl, followed by 1 cup of water, a 1/3 cup of vegetable oil, and 3 eggs. Okay, now we're going to begin mixing our batter. Per the instructions, there's 2 ways you can do this, one using a mixer on medium for 2 minutes, or you can vigorously mix with a whisk for 2 minutes. It's important you follow that 2 minutes and that speed that they ask because that's how we get the right consistency. I'm going to start my timer and begin mixing. Come to an end. We're done mixing. We're going to set this aside and prepare our pan. Alright, for our pan, instructions say to only coat our bottom if we would like it not to stick, which I'm sure you don't. Then we're going to pour our mix in. Alright, our oven's now preheated and we're going to place this in the oven. Look at the back of your box and you're going to correlate the time with the size of your pan. We're using a 13x9, so we're going to put it in for a minimum of 28 minutes. We've taken the cake out and checked with a toothpick that it is cooked all the way. I've let it sit for about 5 minutes, but we want to do this next step while it is still hot. We're going to take our cake and put it into our bowl. Okay, we're going to do this in sections because that's a lot of cake for this bowl. But while it is hot, we are going to beat it until we get a dough consistency. Okay, now that we have our cake into a dough consistency, before we move on to forming our cake pops, we're going to learn how to melt the chocolate that we're using to dip them in. Of course, you could just put it in the microwave, but I've learned that that method can get you burnt tasting chocolate or even just burn your chocolate if you're not doing it correctly. So this is what works best for me. It's the easiest and gets you the best temperature and consistency for your chocolate. In a glass bowl, I'm going to pour my chocolate melts. And then in a saucepan, I'm going to pour water. This is called the double boiler method. So this water over the stove will begin to boil, and this will sit in the middle of our pan and begin melting our chocolate. We'll stir every once in a while, and then when it's completely melted, we can take it off the stove. Okay, now we're going to start forming our cake pops. Here I have a tool that you can use to make them. You can also roll them by hand, and there's different tools out there that do the same thing. I've already made some here, and I've stuffed them into styrofoam so that they don't lose their shape. We're going to take our dough from earlier and make a ball a little bigger than the shape in our hand, and then stick it in there and press it in. Then we're going to close it and press and get all the excess cake out. Then we're going to take a lollipop stick, put it in the hole, then we can open it up, take it out, and then we'll smooth the sides or take off any excess, push down on them, and then stand it in our stand. And you'll repeat that until you're out of mix. Okay, last step is to dip our cake pops in the chocolate. So you're going to take one and literally dip. You want to coat it as much as you can. Coat the stick as well so that we can make sure it stays on there. And then we're going to let it drizzle off so there's no excess. And then we'll place it back in our styrofoam to dry. We're going to repeat that for the rest of the cake. Finished product of our cake pops. Now that you've watched this demonstration, I hope you learned something from it or that you try and make them yourself. Thank you guys for watching.